Yo, what is up, y'all? My name is Robert Donaldson, and welcome back to another edition of Rob's Best Bets. And in this video, we are talking about college hoops, and last week and even on Monday, just a forgettable week of college basketball betting. Obviously, if you followed the Super Bowl bets, you were very happy on Sunday, but you know, you can't live off the Super Bowl and getting all that money brought in and all that profit brought in for too long, especially when you do have a bad Monday. That said, I do love this slate here on Tuesday, and I'm ready to jump into it. But first, let's take a second to shout out today's sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. And Underdog Fantasy is fantastic, guys. It's such a great platform if you like being involved in the daily fantasy market or the pick'em entry market. And they really have player entries and players you can choose from every single league that you can think of, whether it's the UFC or Major League Baseball, NBA, NFL, college football, college basketball. It's just an awesome platform. I'm so grateful to be sponsored by them. And if you haven't already gone over there and signed up using promo code ROBDFB, make sure you go and do so because you'll get a pretty sweet deposit match bonus here as well. But with all that being said, y'all, I'm ready to hop into these Tuesday picks. All right, first up, we are heading out to Richmond, Virginia, where we have Loyola taking on the Richmond Spiders. And this has been a year to forget if you're the Richmond Spiders basketball program, which is really unfortunate because Mooney is a good coach, and this is a proud program that has had a lot of success over the past decade, but this year kind of feels like an outlier. At the same time, they have been competitive in a lot of these losses, and I do feel like they're pretty much on par with a team like Loyola, whether it's on the road, at home, or on a neutral, and they're getting 4.5 points here, and this one is at home. I feel like the Richmond Spiders are live in this game. I feel like they do win it outright, but let's go ahead and take those points. Down the stretch, we might need them based on how they've been closing out, and let's go ahead and bet it for 4 units for our first bet here on Tuesday. For pick number 2, we're heading out to Ann Arbor, where we have Purdue taking on the Michigan Wolverines, and this is a really fun basketball game, especially if you like the big brands within the Big Ten, and in particular, this matchup, the last time we saw it, it was in Mackey Arena, and Purdue absolutely laid the hammer. They left absolutely zero doubt they were the best team on the floor that night, but Michigan is still a proud program and a really good team and really well coached this year under Dusty May. And this is a short line. It almost kind of feels like it's bait wanting people to take Michigan, but call me a sucker. I'm going to go ahead and lay that 1.5 point line for 2 units for our second bet here on Tuesday. For pick number 3, we are heading out to Cedar Falls, Iowa, where we have Indiana State taking on Northern Iowa, and this Northern Iowa team under Ben Jacobson truly feels like another Northern Iowa squad that might be able to win this conference tournament and get a bid into the NCAA tournament, but they do have a long way to go. They have dealt with some injuries, and in particular on Saturday, they're coming off of a crazy comeback winner against a rival in Illinois State, and in this matchup against Indiana State, I do feel like Indiana State is playing some really great basketball after having a very, very slow start to their season, and for that reason, they're getting 8.5 points. I think that's based off of what we kind of thought we learned in the early goings with the Sycamores and what we're seeing right now with Northern Iowa just kind of rolling in conference play, but I feel like this line is way off, and for that reason, I say we take that 8.5 point line for 4 units for our third bet here on Tuesday. For pick number 4, we are heading out to Manhattan, Kansas, where we have Arizona taking on the Kansas State Wildcats, and Kansas State has been one of the hottest teams in the entire country as of late, and they just keep racking up the wins, especially when it's at home, and they have been doing it in devastating fashion when they've gotten the chance in the Octagon of Doom. And in this particular matchup, I do feel like Arizona is riding maybe a little bit too high. They've dodged a lot of bullets as of late, and when you're looking at this game just from the stylistic standpoint, I do feel like it can get played at Kansas State's tempo. We don't even need them to win here. They're getting 3.5 points, and I say we take them for 2 units for our fourth bet here on Tuesday. For pick number 5, we are heading back to the A10 where we have George Mason taking on St. Louis. And St. Louis has been up and down and all over all season long. And that's just because they don't really have a true identity on offense, in my opinion. They have guys that can put up numbers and get their buckets, but it doesn't really feel like it's a cohesive unit in year one with Josh Schertz. And that's unfortunate. And I do think it hurts their long-term prospects to potentially steal a bid. But when you are looking at this kind of soloed individual game, I do feel like George Mason is riding the highest in this conference. And I've seen the A10 play out so many times. I know that there's a trip up coming for these George Mason Patriots, and I do feel like it's probably going to be in this game. So let's go ahead and take St. Louis, getting the 1.5 points for 3 units for our 5th bet here on Tuesday. For pick number 6, we are heading back to the Big Ten where we have Penn State taking on USC. And Penn State, what a disappointment in year 2 of Mike Rhodes. Ace Baldwin came back. They have a lot of veterans in this lineup, and they just haven't been able to close out games. And it kind of feels like they were down in the dumps because of those lack of closeouts and then proceeded to not handle business at home. And now they're going on the road against a USC team that has also had their up and down issues. But in particular with Penn State, there is a cutoff line in the Big Ten tournament where if you're below or in those final 3 or 4 spots, you're not going to be able to make the Big Ten tournament, period. And right now, Penn State's season is on actual life support if they don't kind of find a way to win this game or at least split over the next 2. And for that reason, I kind of want to buy into Mike Rhodes, a veteran lineup led by one of the best guards in the entire country, and Ace Baldwin. I say we take these 4.5 points here for 3 units for our 6th bet here on Tuesday. All right, for our final bet of the night, we are heading out to the ACC where we have Pitt taking on SMU, and SMU has an impressive looking record without having really any impressive wins, and even if they do beat Pitt here in this game, I still think that's going to remain the case. I don't think that Pitt is necessarily an impressive win, especially when you're the host. And in this particular matchup, I do feel like Pitt is still battling for seeding within the ACC. They've had some heartbreaking losses as of late, but overall, they have been able to really compete in this conference. And when you do see a line like 4.5 or a 5 or a 5.5, it does feel a little bit short, but the reality is that that is over a possession. And that not only just over a possession, that's a possession and then some. And I do think that Pitt potentially could just win this thing outright. But I say we go ahead and we take the 4.5 points here for 2 units for our final bet here on Tuesday. All that being said, I really want to thank you guys for checking out today's video. And if you do want to show some love, drop a like in this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below. And I know, it's definitely been difficult as of late over the last 10 days or so. In particular, I guess the last 8 days or so. But when you are looking at the last 30, and I always tell people to kind of keep this perspective when you are talking about a volatile market like sports betting. You know, over the last 30 days, despite all this lack of success over the past 7 or 8, you know, we are still up 21 plus units over that span. And I do feel like even with some of these losing days that we are on the right side of a lot of these bets and they just haven't worked out, which is totally to be expected. And again, this is a volatile market. I don't expect to have winning weeks every single week, but despite that fact, we have rattled off 8 of the last 9 winning weeks, and I'm very proud of that, and I think we're going to be able to continue that down the stretch here, but totally understand. You know, free will. If you want to fade these picks, you go on ahead. Totally understand. I don't take it personal, but with all that being said, y'all, I will see you in a future video. Take it easy.